My name is Cora and welcome to Craftopia, where we are creating a safe space for artists and crafters of all ages and experience levels to learn, create, explore, and grow. I'd like to invite you to check out our website at www.crafttopiawa.com, where you can learn more about our organization and vision and see a list of upcoming classes. You can also follow us on social media at CrafttopiaWA. Now, pull up a chair, get comfortable, and let's get crafty.
Hey guys, today we're going to be learning about loom weaving. We're going to be using little cardboard cards to make our little woven thing, but here's just an example of some of the things you can do. I actually used a piece of cardboard for this as well. It was just a little bit bigger than the ones that we'll be doing today. And then I put a stick through the top so that I was able to hang it on my wall. But we're going to be learning how to do this technique just on a slightly smaller scale. If you're using a kit from Craftopia, then you already have everything that you need to complete this. If you're making your own, you really just need a piece of cardboard, some sort of string or twine for your base spines, and then yarn to weave in there. I do recommend using slightly thicker yarn just because your weaving will go a little bit faster. The thinner the yarn, the more of it you need and the longer it's going to take. So to start, we are going to wrap our card, and we're going to use this jute twine I have. And I'm just going to start by wrapping it around this top corner here and tying a knot. So I'm going to pop it through the very first slit. Our cards are already pre-cut for you, but you can basically just cut them along the top and the bottom however you want. The thinner your yarn, the closer together you're going to need those little slats. If you're using really thick yarn, then they don't need to be as close together. Ours are just kind of medium. Ours are about 1/2 inch cut apart. And all right, nice good double knot to secure it up there for now. And now we're going to weave our loom. We want to make sure that our long pieces are always on the front. So we don't want to take this and wrap it around. Otherwise, we have some on the back and that will end up being a bit of a mess. So we're going to start from this corner here. I'm going to go down to this bottom slit on my other one. I'm going to pop it through kind of like I'm flossing my teeth. And then I'm going to come up through the next one. So I'm not wrapping around the back of my cardboard at all. I'm just popping it through the next tooth and bringing it to the top. Same thing. So like I said, my long ones are on the front. And if you look at the back, I'm just going to have these teeny little loops on the tabs. And if you've got that, then you are doing it right. So pop it through the next one up top here, like I'm flossing my teeth. And then down to the next one on the bottom. Now our slits do not have to be perfectly lined up because we're going to be taking it off this cardboard and it's all going to kind of just even itself out once we take it off. So no worries if your lines aren't perfectly up and down. That will not affect the way of our weaving at all. Just a few more here. It also doesn't really matter if your string ends at the top or the bottom. I find it a little bit easier if my knots are on the same edge as each other. Just creates one less thing to have to tie off in the end, and I hate having to tie things off if I don't have to. So I do like when both tails are on one side. So I'm going to double knot this one as well. I'm going to double knot it up against the string that pops through in order to hold it in place. Now, as you can see, when I wove my card here, I didn't make it too tight, so it's pretty loose as I throw it around. There's a lot of give, and that's going to make it a lot easier for weaving. As we stick our yarn through, it's going to tighten those up. So you do want to make sure that they've got a decent amount of wiggle room. If you do them so tight, your board is going to start to warp, and it'll be a lot harder to get your yarn through. So you have 3 different colors of yarn today, and it's really up to you to decide how you want to use your different pieces. You can use them all in single chunks. You can cut them up into smaller pieces if you want. You can technically use all 3 at the same time. So you get to have a little bit of fun and creativity as far as that goes. Now you should also have a yarn needle. This is not required. You don't have to use this if you don't want to, but it can be easier on these cardboard looms in order to get our little strings up as we go through. But you can do it just fine using your fingers as well. My fingers are a little cranky today. They're sore from some stuff I was doing. So I'm going to go ahead and put my first color, which is going to be this blue, and your colors may vary. So you'll have to think about what colors you want where. And we're going to start to weaving. So for weaving, I'm going to get that out of the way. I'm just going to tuck it back there so it won't play with me too much. For weaving, we're just going to go over and under every other one. So it does not matter if you start over or under. We just want to make sure that we are going opposite every single time. So I'm going to go under my first string, and then over my second string, under my third string, over my fourth string, under, over, under, over, under, and then I'll end over. Now I'm going to take my yarn and I'm actually going to pull it all the way through to the other end. You're going to be doing a lot of pulling of yarn. That just comes with the territory when it comes to weaving. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail. That way I can, pardon that, knocking the camera over. It's sometimes hard to weave around a camera. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail here. That way I can tie it off and weave it in later. If you pull it too close, then your weaving might come undone, and that would be terrible to put in all that work just to have it fall apart. So I've got about 3-4 inches here off to the side, and I'm going to push this all the way to the top. Now, very important when you go back the other way, that you go opposite of the way that you did on these. So I'm over this one, which means I'm going to need to go under next time. And I'm under this one because I can see it, so I'm going to need to go over. If I go back the same way, then the whole thing's just going to fall apart. And again, kind of ruins the purpose of weaving. So I'm over here, I'm going to go under this one, and then over the next one, then under, then over, all the way back across to the other side. And you should be able to see, because as I push this up, I'm just going to do this for show. You notice my little pieces are now on the other ones. So always make sure you are paying attention. All right, I'm going to pull this all the way through, but I'm not going to pull too tight. If I pull this too tightly on this end, then as I'm weaving, my whole weaving is going to go right in the middle, and you're going to end up with an hourglass figure. And I'm going to try to shoot for something that's a little bit more square. It might not be perfect because I'm not perfect, but I'm going to try my best. All right, pull that up. Make sure it's not too tight. And I'm going to keep on going. So this is our basic weaving pattern, just over and under, always going opposite of the way we did before. So I'm on top here, and I'm going to go under this one this time and go back the other way. You can use as much or as little of this as you want. So if you just want a couple rows of your first color, you can do just a couple rows. You could do all of it the same color if you wanted. So you can really kind of play around, make your own pattern and design in your weaving. I'm going to probably do the first couple inches of it, and then I'm going to show you how to weave on just half of your loom. Okay, so I've got a couple of, about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches of the blue done. I've got this idea I am going to try, and we'll see if it works. So the next color I'm using is going to be this super, super thick yellow that I've got. And this is a little thicker, so it might be a little trickier to get onto our yarn needle. Oh, I don't know why I pulled that all the way through. So this one I'm just going to do over on this side. I want to kind of create a little yellow blob. And then after I get my yellow blob, I'm going to go back through with my blue and fill in the other side to meet my yellow blob. But because this is so thick, I'm going to start with it. So same thing I started. I'm going to pay attention to where this is here. So go over, under. I think I'm just going to do those ones to start. I'll leave a little bit of a tail out there to tuck in a minute. All right, I'm going to go reverse on my way back. And these thicker ones, when you pull them through, are going to make your little spines move a lot more. So I like to just kind of put my hand down and hold them. That way I don't pull too tightly. Okay. A little tighter than that. There we go. And back the other way, but I'm going to go one more string over this time. Ugh, some thick yarn. See how much faster that thick stuff goes though? Okay, and then back the other way. So I've only done 4 rows of yellow, and look, it's almost as thick as the blue, and there's about 10 rows of the blue. And back, only this time I'm not going to pick up that last one. And then back the other way. Okay, and that's really all I'm going to do of the yellow. I don't want too much of it. Just a little kind of almost circle, not quite. So, since I'm completely done with the yellow, I'm going to go ahead and cut my tail off. Actually, I'm going to not cut it off yet, just in case I change my mind. And now I'm going to go back through with the blue. Now this is where it can get a little tricky if you're trying to do 2 colors side by side, because we want to make sure that we're weaving, but we also have to get into this area as we weave. Otherwise, we end up with a big hole. So as I'm coming back over here, I'm going to pull it through up to my yellow. And see, and if I just turn around and go back the other way, see that big old weird gap? So I want to make sure I come one more over, and I'm actually going to tuck it right on top of that yellow for this one. Back the other direction. And I might need a couple more rows of the blue. Obviously, it is thinner yarn. So this is where it gets a little tricky, because if I come up here, then my whole thing's going to be sideways. So I'm going to sneak yellow down. That way, as I come through, I can put that yellow back on top of it. And it'll be a little more even, and they join beautifully. So same thing again, towards my yellow. And as I get to my yellow, I'm going to sneak it. See, I need to go this way. And this time, I'm actually going to go through my yellow to tie it together. Ta-da! That way it comes out in the middle, and it creates a perfect seam together. So I still have that nice yellow there, but I don't have a gap between my blue. All right, I'm going to continue that all the way down to the bottom of my yellow. All right, I ran out of blue. I would have liked to have done one more row of blue, but honestly, it still looks pretty good. So I'm just going to leave my tail there, and I'm going to move on now to this, got this kind of brownish, whitish, beigeish mix yarn. And it's also nice and chunky, so it should go really fast. And because I ran out of blue, I'm just going to squish my yellow up a little bit higher because I want the brown to be straight across. I could start here and do like 1 or 2, but that seems like, I don't think I need to do that. So just going to weave this and pull it all the way through. And then I'm going to just weave this color all the way down to the bottom of the card. All right, so I'm down to my last couple of rows. And I just wanted to make a couple notes now that you can see everything. First of all, can you see how I pulled a little bit tighter here? And so my weaving goes in a bit. That's okay, it does happen. That's one of the reasons I don't like to weave the tails in until the very end, because if necessary, then I can always kind of scooch these around. And if it's already tied, then you don't really have a lot to work with. So, but I still think I kept it fairly straight. I'm very, 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 I'm not good at keeping things straight, so I'm actually really impressed with how straight I kept this. I also wanted to mention that it's really important as you're doing this that you make sure your yarn goes all the way to the top and then all the way to the bottom. These last couple rows get really tight because we have so much woven here and we're so close to the cardboard, but even though they're a little bit trickier, don't skip them. If I take this off of my cardboard now with all that loose space, the whole thing's just going to loosen up and get really holey. So we want to try to cram in as much as we can, even though it's a little trickier down here near the bottom. I'm going to get at least 2 more rows in here. I only got about halfway there. Boop, and then I'm getting near the end of my yarn. It's trying to fall off all the time. And one way to make it easier is you actually, because it's cardboard, you can bend it a little bit and see that kind of gives you a little bit better gap. So if you're really struggling, you can do that. Since it is a soft piece of paper, it's easy to make do. And actually, I think I can get 1 more row snuck in there. Push it up. That way it's nice and tight. Now, if you do want to put a stick or something to hang it with, actually, you can just tie a string and hang it this way. But if you wanted something flat, then you'd want to make sure to leave a little bit of room because you're basically going to do this with your stick or whatever you're using to hang it. Chopsticks, super fun way to hang things. They're beautiful hangers. All right, I don't think I'm going to get any more in this card. All righty, so I'm going to take it off of my cardboard before I weave my ends in. You can certainly do it while it's still attached as well. I just find it easier when I can flip-flop it and see it from the other side. So first thing though, we're going to need to secure our corners if you're not using a stick. If you are, then you'll want to take these 2 knots and tie them onto your stick. I'm going to just slip them off my cardboard here. And I'm going to pull them tight, and then I'm going to tie it to my tail. And that should hold it together and keep it from unraveling. And then both of these ends can be woven in. Over here is going to be a little trickier because I don't have a tail to tie it to, but I've got this little loop here that I can use. So again, I'm going to slip it off. This knot's already really loose, so I'm just going to unknot it. I kept having to pull it tight because it didn't want to stay. And I'm just going to stick it through here and then tie it to itself. Now my favorite part of all, pulling it off the loom. You can pull 1 loop at a time if you're concerned. Because again, it's cardboard, like to just pull the whole thing off at once. All right, so you can kind of smush it out so it gets all up into those little edges there. Check that out. I'm really happy with how that turned out. It gives me the feeling of the sun and the nice blue sky over the beach. All right, time to weave in our ends. So we're just going to take these little pieces and we're just going to kind of fish them through wherever we want to hide them back in there. You can tie them if you're concerned. I don't like doing that just because then you end up with all these knots that are pokey on the side, and I like it a little bit smoother. So I'm just going to kind of take it and like, because see, you can see the backside now, so we can just kind of hide it in there and pull it through. And see, perfect. You don't even know it's there. And then we can just trim it all off once we have all of those done. And then you have a very beautiful weaving made from a cardboard loom. I cannot wait to see what amazing things you come up with.
We hope you had a good time crafting with us today. If you have any questions regarding this project, feel free to leave a comment below or send us an email at info@crafttopiawa.com. And be sure to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on any future crafty goodness. Until next time!